The Assad family's notorious legacy of terror began with Hafez al Assad, Bashar's father, and his uncle, Hafez al Assad, the architects of the dictatorship that ruled over Syria for decades. For over 40 years, Syrians living under the Assad regime have been unable to mention or mourn the tens of thousands who were brutally murdered during February 1982 by Hafez's forces in the city of Hama, in a massacre that was the single bloodiest assault by an Arab ruler against his own people. During the late 1970s and early 1980s, opposition against Hafez and the Ba'ath Party had reached a tipping point. Determined to teach Syrians a lesson on the consequences of dissent, the Assad regime planned a crackdown to crush the country's fourth largest city. Hafez handed over the reins of terror to his younger brother Rifat, the commander of the regime's paramilitary forces, who ordered at least 20,000 troops to lay siege on Hama. From February 2, 1982, the city was isolated by regime forces for 27 days. It was completely cut off from water, electricity, and communications. Warplanes pounded Hama, making way for tanks that razed entire neighborhoods and killed their residents. Unimaginable horrors were committed. Entire families were lined up, executed, and thrown into mass graves. Women were raped and killed by regime forces. For weeks, the streets were littered with bodies that became feed for animals. Mosques, schools, and factories were turned into torture centers.
أنا بعرف حدا ما يعرفش على الإعدام يعني وكلياتنا هيك الرجال وأنا بيتي معمل برسلان شهر كنا ندخل على التحقيق 10 يطلع 2 أو 3 طيبين والباقي التعذيب حتى الموت. الدكتور حكمة الخاني أنا قدامي شفته قلعوا له عيونه بسيخ الحديد وطمشوه وحطوه معانا بعد ساعة أخذوه على عمود.
Survivors recall witnessing their family members being slaughtered in front of them, with some even crushed by tanks. The horrific assault killed an estimated 40,000 civilians and left 17,000 missing.
كانوا يجيبوا الجثث بالسيارات الشاحنة من كثافة الجثث. تيجي الجثث بالسيارات الشاحنة تقلب اللاب يقلب على باب البراد بالمشفى الوطني.
Rifat became known as the Butcher of Hama and was charged by Switzerland with war crimes and crimes against humanity. An international arrest warrant was issued for him, but he is yet to face any consequences. Over the rubble of demolished homes, the Assad regime constructed hotels, roads, and government buildings, attempting to cover up any trace of the savagery it had committed. What was never erased or forgotten, however, was the collective trauma that quietly haunted Syrians in Hama for decades. Now, on the 43rd anniversary of the massacre, Syrians are finally able to break their silence and recount the atrocities they witnessed while demanding justice for their loved ones.